Good day. Our topic today is implementation stage, which is the first stage in the delivery phase. So now where the real money start to happen and the work start to shape up. So with the project approved at gate 5, it will be time to start the implementation stage. And notice in parallel we have the operation readiness stage, which we'll talk about in the next module. Implementation stage is often the stage that requires most of the effort and resources. We have been saying this, and if you recall some of the numbers we quoted earlier, usually at least about 90% or 95% of the money is spent in the delivery phase, where probably the majority of that is in the implementation stage. And it's not uncommon for many projects that the work for this stage is done by service providers, vendors, or contractor, in other words, outsourced. Unless they are small project or in-house project, internal business day-to-day project, it's highly likely that this would be the case. In terms of project management process, the processes that we need to do, it's quite simple stage. There isn't a lot of complexity because it's mostly about doing work. So the complexity come in the first bullet here, which is managing the team. But it's not in terms of process. It's not like what we mean by process, like how do you estimate or schedule. Managing the team by itself is quite complex effort, again, in terms of process, there are not many processes in implementation and just doing the work, but by itself, that's highly complex. During the stage, we would be collecting information, we'll be monitoring the work, we'll be analyzing performance. Well, some of these terms I'm using here, monitoring the work and analyzing performance, is typically our part of project control, which is happening from the time we have the idea approved. Technically, control, it's ongoing throughout the project and in every stage. However, because most of the money and effort and the quantities and the quantitative work is being done in implementation, control become highly critical in this stage. In this stage, we might have to take corrective actions or preventive action. And the primary focus is to keep focus on the plan and the goals that we need to achieve. As we go through this stage, we are likely to update the cost and schedule information to keep the sponsor and management aware of the current status. As you know, we plan, but as soon as you start delivering or working on the plan, things happen. Things happen that could push you off track. And remember, the project management plan is your roadmap, and the detailed plan will give you the detail of that roadmap. So basically, once you start doing work, there are maybe too many things that could happen to push you off track. So this is why you need to focus. And of course, when you are pushed off track, typically that means there is additional cost or schedule impact. So we need to keep our management aware of what's happening with the project as the project's progress. How things works, quick slide here, and then we will show you an animated approach. Basically, as we start to do work, meaning implement, things happen. And because things happen, we have to take actions. So there might be things we do, activities, action to prevent problem. And we call these preventive actions. There might be things we do to correct for a deviation or variance from plan. This is when you go off track. When we need to take action to correct, to get back on track. And basically we use the term variances for the deviation from the plan, and corrective action to get back on plan. We might encounter defect. You might do something and end up being defective or wrong, or there's error that need to be fixed. We call these defect, and we have to repair them or replace them. Further, you might discover the need to change something. Change is inevitable, and it happened. The key things is, how do you want to spend your time in implementation? Are you going to be fighting fires or preventing fires? Well, how do we prevent fires? Well, go back to the previous stage. Make sure you have an outstanding plan, detailed scope of work, detailed schedule. And of course, I know when I've been talking about some of this stuff, if people are from the trendy new word, agile word today that's coming, adaptive, they probably think we are crazy. Hopefully, we will be able to explain that a change usually is something that have an impact on the project. Now, in traditional project management or predictive project management or adaptive project management, whatever approach you follow, a change will always happen. The difference is, do we understand that the change has impact? And if we are willing to accept the consequence on the change, then you can do as many changes as you like. Yeah. Now, typically in a predictive environment where you are working on capital project, facilities project, changes become very disruptive, and usually they are the main source of failure of project if they're not managed well. So this is why in many projects, especially facilities project, change is a must to prevent or to minimize. And to do so, we can only do so by having a great plan or an excellent plan with quite a bit of the necessary detail to support it. Otherwise, we're going to end up with a lot of fighting fires. Now, I don't know if we have said this somewhere in this course so far, but the key is the whole concept of project management is to be preventive rather than reactive. We want to be preventive, prevent problem, prevent fires, not fight fires. Obviously, if there is a fire, we have to fight it. But the more fires we are fighting, that's an indicator that we have failed in planning, or we failed in the feasibility, or we failed somewhere in the front few stages or the early few stages of the project life cycle. So the more problem we run into, the more incident, the more issues, that's an indication of poor front-end work before gate 5. That's why we need to have the good planning and even risk exercise, risk management, in order to minimize the fires that we're going to face on the project. I don't know if we can ever eliminate all fires, but we can definitely do a great job in minimizing the fires. Let's talk about everything we've been talking about so far in this one slide, but as an animation. And as we go through this animation, I'm going to explain to you using street language like we are going on a road trip. And I'm going to relate this to some of the language we use in project management. So at least you can start to relate. Let's say we have made a decision to go on a trip. What do you think that is in the term of the concept we've been talking about? If you like, you can freeze the video for a minute and think about it. We don't have to write anything at this time, just think about it. Yeah, which document or which stage would we have done this? Pause. Well, a decision to go on a trip, notice, is not we are thinking about going on a trip. If I had used the term here, we are thinking about going on a trip, that would be equivalent to the idea statement in the project brief, or the idea that is submitted. And usually after approval of the idea, we have to do a feasibility study before we can make the final decision, or the initial approval, if you remember what we talk about. So a decision to go on a trip, that means we have made a decision that this project is feasible, which means we can go on this trip and enjoy ourselves. And to document that, that would be equivalent to what I call the project authorization document. Now, once we go project authorization document and we have it in hand, we go, if you remember, into the next phase of the project, which is the development phase, which is the requirement stage, which is in a way where we start to do the project management planning as well, defining the requirement, the project management planning and detailed planning. So that is where you need to start to plan the trip. And once the plan is approved, time to pack your bags and get on the road. Getting on the road, of course, represent for us what? Think about it. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Well, obviously, this is the start of implementation. So we are now starting to implement. So what could happen? Some of the things we discussed on the previous slide, let's show them here. The first thing that we could have is we have an exit. So remember, your plan is like your roadmap. And on your roadmap, you should have defined where you're going to take exit, where you're going to stop, all of these things. So the exit in terms of road is clear. We're going to have to take an exit at this point in time. In project management, I'm using the term exit to represent something to achieve, a goal, mobilizing a team member, delivery of an important item, awarding a contract, something, a goal, a target, a report to publish that you have on the project. However, for some reason or another, sorry, I was losing track of my animation, we missed that goal. And that means when you miss that goal, that's basically you miss the exit, basically. And what that means is obviously if we use the street language, if you just missed an exit, this is a deviation from plan. So now we have a variance. We have deviated from our roadmap. But it's something obvious. We were immediately able to notify, assuming we have a navigator in the car, that we just missed an exit. So missing an exit is missing a goal, is a variance from plan. When you have a variance from the plan, you have to take corrective action. We have to see what can we do to correct for the situation so we can get back on track, because right now we're off track. Now there could be many options, and here you can decide quickly. Obviously the most logical and safest option is you continue driving on the highway until you get to the next exit and you come back, or maybe there is another exit you can take down the road. Or, if you're a little bit risk taker, if you just miss an exit and there is a feeder on the right side of the road, maybe you can stop, back up and exit. And I've seen it sometime. We do some crazy things where we can turn in the middle of the road. I know it sounds crazy, but maybe I should ask you to watch the Titanic video maybe later, and you can see that sometimes we do make, forgive me for saying, stupid mistakes on project, especially if we're in trouble, and we might get lucky, or we might be spending thousands if not millions of dollars as a result of those decisions, the wrong decisions that we make. So whatever decision you want to make, we need to correct for the situation. Maybe it is a minor deviation and you said, look, this is minor, we can live with it, let's move on. Okay, so let's move on. As we move on, we have another exit, which means another goal, another target to achieve. And what that means is that hopefully we have learned our lessons. We missed a goal already. We do not want to miss another goal. So here's the challenge for us is to stay focused and do what we call preventive action. These are the actions that will help us prevent making a mistake or missing a deadline or missing a goal. In terms of the highway, obviously that means slow down, stay focused, drive on the side of the highway where the exit is, so you don't have to go sideways on the highway. Whatever the case might be, all the action that you take to prevent a problem, we call them preventive action. Moving on, and we have this situation. Obviously, we have a defect here, or a flat tire, or a problem with the car. That is reflecting a quality issue or a risk that might have occurred. Then, assuming this is a defect, what do? We've got to repair it before we move on. This is straightforward. And of course, the defect in this case on project, could be a defective part you are doing, or something you built the wrong way, or maybe an engineering design error, or maybe using the wrong document, whatever. Then moving on, I'm gonna give you a minute to think about what does this symbol represent. What am I trying to tell you here? Pause. Well, obviously, we have a confused person, sad face. We are not sure which way to go. So it's clear in this case that our roadmap is failing us, or maybe the road condition is failing us. Now, I'm trying to represent here that we do have a problem, which is more than missing an exit. And I'm trying to say that this is probably a troubled project. This is a term we use sometime to indicate that this project is in trouble, meaning it's significantly over budget or behind schedule or with the money quality issues. Now, why project get to this situation? Many people jump on planning. Well, it could be 4 major categories. I mean, obviously it could be 100 reasons, but I would like to group them into 4 major categories. The first category, maybe this project is bad and shouldn't have been approved to start with. So bad idea, or the idea was not studied well, the feasibility was not well. So basically this situation where the company have authorized a project that maybe shouldn't have been authorized. And sooner or later, we're gonna catch up to find out that this project potentially is a disaster and should have been, and should not have been approved, and maybe it should be stopped. So the category 1 relate to the discovery phase of the project life cycle. Basically a bad discovery phase, bad feasibility. Or it could be planning in the development phase, project management plan or a detailed plan. And again, that doesn't mean we're not trying to blame people here. It could be a system problem. Could be maybe the company or the organization doesn't have good data to come up with a good estimate. Maybe the people working on the project have not been trained to manage project. They do not have experience. Regardless what reason it is related to the development phase of the project. And obviously what that means, that development phase and maybe the detailed plan that we have, it's failing us as well. A third category could be related to execution. So maybe nothing wrong with the feasibility and nothing wrong with the detailed plan, but as we execute the work, as we implement the work, we could have many issues and problem. Maybe it is lack of experience on the team. Maybe I can give you 100 maybe. Whatever the case might be, so we are failing in implementing the work. And the fourth category is things beyond your control that no one could have expected. A war, maybe a major disaster that is unforeseen. And that is the first 3 reasons I gave you, or 3 categories, are typically within the control of the organization and the team, and they could have been prevented. And the fourth one is probably outside the control of anybody or any good project team. Now, what happened when we reach this situation? Obviously, the project is in trouble. We have significant problem, more than missing an exit again. So what do? Well, this requires us to stop and really analyze the situation and go back to define the root cause analysis. What are the root cause of this situation we are in? Is it bad feasibility? Is it bad plan? Is it bad execution? Is it condition? Is there X, Y, Z, whatever the case might be. Now, why do we want to do this? We want to come and assess and then ask the tough question. Does this project still make sense to go ahead? Which means we might have to cancel the project, stop the project. And some people said, but we spent money already. The project is already, there are a lot of work going on. Well, that money is sunk. And usually what we say is sunk money should not be considered in deciding whether the project should go ahead or not. The only reason you will decide to go ahead with this project is if you still think or believe that you can deliver benefits. Now, of course, that you can still finish the project, but something damage is done. Either the project will finish behind the schedule or below above budget, or maybe you have to let go of some of the scope, or maybe you sacrifice some quality issues, but you can still deliver something at the end and you get benefit from it. If you believe that, then time to replan the remaining work. This is a time to basically take a strong look, a hard look on what remains and what will be the best way of continuing the project to the end. And we move on. Now, notice everything I've been discussing on the slide until now all relate to performance-related issues. They are related to the plan. Without good plan, I don't know I missed an exit. Without good plan, I wouldn't know I'm lost. Yes? So unless we have a good plan in hand, then we don't know anything about deviation or corrective action or preventive action or defect repair. So everything I've been discussing here usually is in comparison to a plan, and that's usually happening as a result of doing the work. So basically we say it's a performance related items. So what else? There's one more thing we need to talk about. I touched on in the previous slide, which is this image. Now notice here there is direction, but there is no sad face. And I'm trying to use this picture here or the symbol to represent a change of direction. Someone on the team, a customer, a client, a sponsor, a team member, your neighbor, whoever it is, has asked for a change of plan. And basically this is somebody is saying, look, we know we have, maybe you've been doing great or maybe you have not been doing great. Regardless what performance you have achieved to this moment, someone is making a suggestion, a request to change the plan that you have already. So this is conscious. Okay. Now what we say, regardless who that person is, who is requesting, the team must assess that request. We need to assess the request and the impact of that request on the project objective in terms of cost, schedule, quality, risk, human resources, etc., etc. And then we need to go back to the decision maker who have the power to approve a change like this. And then we tell them this is a request for change. This is the impact. What to do? Reject. They reject the change. You continue back to original plan. They approve the change. Now you have to come back and modify your plan to accommodate the change. And you continue on your journey. And hopefully, regardless what happened on this journey, at least it was successful and you've had a good time and you've enjoyed yourself. So implementation to close out lead to the final product of the project. It's other activities, operation readiness will be happening in parallel. That will be the next topic. Once all the activities from the operation readiness stage and implementation stage are ready, at gate 6, we do the handover. Again, this is the subject of the next stage. The ORT or operation readiness team usually will accept the provisional acceptance certificate at stage gate 6, but maybe not, depend on what's happening, but at least we need to consider, are we ready to hand over? Remember, projects are temporary, and at the end of the project, they should be handed over to the end user, the project owner, whoever it is. So here is we are starting to get into that mode. All right. I will emphasize some of these in the next couple of. And thank you. And have a wonderful time.